We naturally want to believe that dangerous criminals look the part, but the most effective predators often hide in plain sight. They blend directly into our neighborhoods as respected, completely mundane members of society. On a cold November morning in 1983, 16-year-old Sherry Joe Elliott left her house to walk 2 blocks to the school bus stop. She was a cautious, rule-abiding teenager, the kind of kid her family knew would never willingly enter a vehicle with a stranger. She never made it to school. Days later, a local trapper found her body face down in a watery drainage ditch near the roadside. She had been sexually assaulted and shot 4 times, including an execution-style wound to the back of the head. This brutal violence shattered the perceived safety of the community around Flint, Michigan. At the time, this was a booming blue-collar town built around automobile manufacturing, a place where people felt secure, and a crime of this nature seemed impossible. To find her killer, the police relied on the standard strategy of the 1980s. They crowdsourced information. Detectives asked the public for tips, hoping someone's memory would provide a solid lead. One eyewitness came forward claiming he saw Sherry get into a yellow Camaro. Investigators spent months tracking thousands of cars, only to find the witness was lying. That single fabricated story derailed the investigation for years. When subjective tips fail to yield results, detectives often fall back on statistical probability. In cases of violence against women, investigators naturally default to suspecting family members based on how often the perpetrator is someone the victim knows. This bias caused investigators to hyperfixate on Sherry's stepfather, Robert Schultz. As the last person to see her alive, he was subjected to intense scrutiny, aggressive questioning, and demands to take a polygraph, forcing him to defend his innocence while grieving. The entire analog investigation failed because human memory is easily fabricated, and detective intuition is easily blinded by proximity. Without objective data, the real perpetrator was able to remain in the community for decades. The trail went cold until 2025, when investigators made a crucial pivot. They abandoned human guesswork, deciding to let the biological evidence dictate the direction of the case. Preserved in the evidence room was a biological sample recovered from the original crime scene. Despite being over 40 years old, the DNA contained enough information to reconstruct the killer's profile. They utilized forensic-grade genome sequencing to process the sample. This technology takes physical, decaying biological matter and translates it into a digital data map that can be cross-referenced against global databases. The lab targets specific genetic markers called SNPs. Analyzing these variations isolates the suspect's unique lineage. Digitizing the genome removes human error. The killer cannot lie. Their cells have generated an unalterable digital barcode of their identity. That data map allowed for a genetic genealogy search, which pointed investigators toward a distant relative of the killer living in Wichita, Kansas. Charting this lineage revealed a massive hurdle, a family tree with 79 grandchildren across the country. To process this, police and students digitized 40 years of case files. Cross-referencing these records filtered out branches based on age, location, and history. The data funnel eventually narrowed to a single name, Ronnie Collins. He was in his early 30s in 1983, lived in the immediate area, and crucially drove a white van, a detail that matched a tip from the original investigation that had been buried for decades. This scientific process pinpointed a man who had spent 40 years as a respected dental hygienist. It proved that objective data can see through the social facades that often fool human detectives. When law enforcement approached Ronnie Collins for an interview in early 2026, he realized he was trapped. He understood that genetic data cannot be argued with or manipulated. Collins agreed to meet with investigators, but he chose to commit suicide on the day the interview was scheduled, rather than face a trial and the inevitable prison sentence. Police executed a post-mortem search warrant to collect a direct sample of his DNA. The laboratory results confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that his biology was a flawless one-to-one match to the evidence from 1983. A perpetrator who successfully evaded human detection for 40 years was finally cornered by his own biology. The evidence forced a definitive conclusion, leaving no room for the killer to hide or move. When investigators notified Sherry's family, the discovery brought more than just an arrest. Identifying the real killer officially exonerated her late stepfather, Robert Schultz.
clearing his name after a lifetime of undeserved suspicion. The advancement of forensic genetic genealogy provides a necessary safeguard against human error. By anchoring investigations in biological data, it ensures that suspicion is directed by evidence rather than bias, protecting the innocent from the lasting damage of false accusations.